I am a sucker for a quiz. I will gladly trade my email address to find out what spirit animal I am, or what celebrity I look like, or find out my mastercraft. And there's a lot of other people out there willing to trade their email address for some quiz results too. If you aren't leveraging a quiz of your own to grow your email list and sell more in your business, it's time that you start thinking about it. I have a quiz expert here that is going to give you some insights on creating a quiz for your biz, how to do it right, what mistakes to avoid, and a whole lot more. If you want a bigger email list and a funnel that leads your customers right to an offer, it's time you listen to today's episode with quiz expert Linda Sidhu. You're listening to the Badass is the New Black podcast. I'm Chrissy Chin, your host, here to teach you how to build an online business that you love, and in a way that allows you to work a little bit less so you can enjoy a whole lot more. My hope is that you've showed up to today's episode ready to learn something new and will be inspired to take imperfect action in your business right away. I won't make you wait any longer. Let's dive in. Let's welcome Linda Sidhu to the podcast. She is a list building expert who helps entrepreneurs create irresistible personality quizzes that bring in new subscribers on autopilot. As a former pharmaceutical sales representative, she has extensive training in personality types and has taken the same methods that worked for selling products face-to-face and turned them into a framework that converts views to leads at 60% and crafted personalized marketing for her customers. When she's not thinking outside the box or creating a quiz, you can catch her exploring the Pacific Northwest with her family and crazy puppy Dakota. Welcome, Linda.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited to talk to you about quizzes today, especially because I've been inquiring about quizzes. My network is saying you should do a quiz. So I'm excited to kind of pick your brain selfishly for myself and then share that with everyone out there listening so that they can decide if a quiz is something that they should do for their business. Before we dive in, I would love to hear just a little bit of a background, kind of how you got to this point.
Yeah, so that's a great question. You mentioned I was in pharmaceutical sales, so I did that for about 10 years. And in my pharmaceutical sales career, I was trained heavily on personalities. And we used the DISC model, so dominant, influencer, steady, conscientious, the DISC. And what would happen is I would sit in my car day in, day out for 10 years. And I would just visualize what this doctor, his personality was like. So that way I could show up in a way that was more comfortable for them. Because my personality, I'm very nurturing. I like to see progress. I'm fast paced. So I'm a natural influencer. And because I really care about how I show up for other people, this made perfect sense because I didn't want to sell in a sleazy way. So what would happen is I would visualize, okay, this Dr. Chrissy, she is very dominant. She's fast paced. I can cut the details. She doesn't want to know that. And I can just offer a few options before I leave and let her make the decision. So when I would show up in ways like that, or the completely opposite personality, where this person was a slower paced, more thoughtful approach, they take their time to make decisions. And yet maybe they're still very nurturing and people-oriented. Those people I would target for lunches. And I wouldn't expect them to use my products for maybe a year or two, to be honest with you, because it really took a long time to build trust. So I used these personalities and actually I was top 10 sales every single year and I won the trips and I felt like I was doing it in a very considerate, non-sleazy approach. And then when I started to launch my business, it only made sense for me to create a quiz for two reasons. One, because I have a fun, outgoing personality. I like to have fun with my audience. I like to be fun myself. I'm creative. I think outside the box. So for me, I thought it would be fun to create a quiz. Also, my ideal clients are very busy entrepreneurs. So they're not the type that's going to download a PDF and like actually work on it that afternoon. They're not the ones that are going to want to show up, unfortunately, for a summit and be there for every single interview. They're going to want to have fun, take a quick quiz, and that's it. They get on my list that way and they actually had fun doing it. It's almost like social media, right? Like just how social media is super fun, where email marketing maybe is more, thoughtful. So when I created my quiz, it made sense to do it in a personality, to separate in personalities. And then that is really where I found out that not only did I have fun, create a way for business owners to join my email list, but I was able to separate them and segment them into personalities, which then gave me the information on how I can show up for them and make and help them with their buying decisions. So if I'm on a discovery call, I can, with a dominant person, I know it's going to take 20 minutes. If I know that this person is going to be more thoughtful, ask more questions, maybe I set up the call for an hour to better support them.
Wow, super fascinating. I love that. So pharmaceutical sales, and now you help people create quizzes for their businesses. It's like, oh my gosh, how would, you put that together? But what I'm love is that you took what you learned in your, previous professional life, and you are applying it to your new, journey that you're doing now, this entrepreneurial journey, having your own business, helping, other entrepreneurs create quizzes for their business, and so on and so forth. So I love just kind of highlighting that you didn't create a course on, selling pharmaceutical sales, which someone would think would be kind of that natural progression. Take what you're an expert in and then turn it into a course. You took this piece, this, thing that you were really good at, that you learned inside this profession, and then you leveraged that same skill to come over and build your own business supporting other entrepreneurs. So that's kind of something different than my typical, like, people that I will talk to who are experts. And I've got a friend who is an actor. And so he's an expert as an actor, and now he's teaching people how to act. It's kind of like that. Oh, that's that natural next step. Oh, I teach breath work and movement work one-on-one. Okay, let me turn that into a digital course. So this is a little bit not so black and white, which what you have done to transition, but I love how it's tied together through this personality work.
Well, I didn't know that was the right way to go until I created my quiz. Now, let me back up and tell you, I had no business creating a quiz because it was for an offer that wasn't even validated. And I always tell people you have to have a validated offer to create a quiz for. But I just went out on a whim, created this quiz. And what happened after that is where I felt the validation. And I was like, whoa, there's something here. So I created the quiz. It grew my email list from 60 people to 300% within 60 days.
Wow.
Super fast. And not only that, people started sharing it. People were tagging me, sharing it. So then I realized, oh my gosh, I just created something shareable that was a way for people to get on my email list. And so every once in a while, if I was on a podcast or if another entrepreneur would bring it up or put it in their Facebook group, all of a sudden my quiz would catch wind, and I would have about 60 more people join over the weekend. And I'm like, what just happened? And it was because something happened. Someone mentioned it. Mm-hmm. Then Interact, the quiz company, they actually reached out to me a few months into my quiz, and they said, we need to get you on the phone because your conversions are higher than what we say is actually a good quiz. So what the heck are you doing? So what happened was I told him my story about, okay, I just divided people up into these personalities. It makes sense because of my pharmaceutical days. And he said that was brilliant, that he had never heard somebody use their past experience to turn it into a personality quiz. So now I recently did have a quiz, not just at 60%, usually 60% from views to leads, but I just had one recently go out about a month ago that got up to 70%. So when people viewed the quiz, they became a lead at a 70% rate, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And just hearing even more of your story is just such an interesting evolution of this process of you start your business doing one thing, and then over time, more things develop and more doors open, and then boom, before you know it, you're the quiz expert and everyone's going to Linda to create a quiz. So super cool how, even getting into your entrepreneurial journey, you didn't know you were going to be the quiz expert.
Right.
And it sort of evolved, but I can tell that you've got this open personality. You're open to new ideas and new things and trying, things differently. You said you think outside the box. So it's like, hey, I'm going to take that. So I love that. I love that it's led you here. And that you get to share your knowledge with us. Before we dive into really who should create a quiz, what they should be thinking about when they're thinking about creating a quiz, I would love to hear one system or process that you've implemented into your own business that has kind of been a game changer for you.
Well, ironically, we're going back to quizzes because what happened was I also created something that was built on automation. So what happened, and this is pre-COVID, obviously we had no idea this was going to happen 2020. And I had created a quiz and I attached a welcome series to it. So that way, once someone took my quiz, they had fun with it, they got the results, they went back to their email to find their results. First of all, a lot of people don't do that with the average PDF download. It ends up never being opened. So they go back and then they started to receive emails where I was trying to build trust. I wanted to validate them. I wanted them to feel seen and heard. So my second email to them was really validating them, letting them know that they're in the right place. I talked about how some of my lead magnets in the past had failed, and not to feel bad because I did this Earth Day challenge. Ironically, we're actually recording this on Earth Day right now. And what happened was I created this amazing challenge, got all these people to come to it. And I went on vacation. I left the country. I went that Friday, I left, I set everything up and I went to Mexico. And on Monday, nothing went out. And so I didn't have a computer. Anyway. So it was a complete flop. And I had to do my Earth Day challenge a week later when I got back. It was like, this doesn't even make sense. But anyway, so I talked about that story and it was, it just validates people, makes them realize, they're not alone, that they had a flop, right? Then I shared more information about who I am and why I'm the expert at creating quizzes. And then I always like to have an email in the welcome series where I, kind of offer an additional tip or a quick win. And then the last email is really the next steps, like where do you want them to go? So I created this welcome series. And so that was also on automation. So what happened was you give your link to the quiz or people share your quiz and all of a sudden they not only took your quiz and they're on your email list, but now they've gone through a nurturing series all on automation. And I didn't have to do any of this. It's almost like a welcome series, in my opinion, is if you were opening a restaurant and you had that first person come into the restaurant and you show them around, you take them to their table, you offer a drink, but all of a sudden the night goes on, there's more and more people that are coming in and you can't control it. That's what a welcome series does, is it allows you to control the amount of people coming into your business to welcome them and give them an experience.
Love that. I love that. So setting up that funnel, that lead magnet, which was the quiz, to that nurture sequence, really allowed you to kind of do what you're doing on autopilot. Love that.
And just bringing back 2020, when I had to take time off to spend time with my son, all that was working in the background. And I really realized I'm creating more balance and I'm able to be more present with my family, with my business. And interesting enough, the people I create quizzes for, that's something they actually value. They sort of transition from hustle mode into being more present and allowing more balance in their lives. So a lot of my clients that I look back to, they're planning for babies, or maybe they have their third baby. But in the end, once they have everything set up on automation, I'm looking at their Instagram stories and they're actually present with their family. So I'm creating balance as well. And so that's really cool.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'm a sucker for a quiz. So I will, take a quiz all day long to find out my personality type or, what celebrity I look like or, whatever it is. I'm a sucker for a quiz and I will gladly give up my email for the results of that quiz. And so for me, because I am such a sucker for it, I'm like, there's got to be so many other people out there that really love quizzes. I don't necessarily even just want like this PDF that's just going to tell me stuff, which is what I'm creating for people right now at this point. So I'm like, gosh, if I love a quiz so much, I feel like I really need to offer a quiz. And so that's how, we got connected through through our network, through a mutual friend, Emily, who's been on the podcast, talked about VAs. Guys, if you haven't listened to that one, go listen to her episode as well. But we got connected and started talking about quizzes. And I was like, look, I have got to get you on the podcast because this is so valuable. Quizzes are fun. People are interacting with them. And so I just wanted you to be able to share, what people should be thinking about, who should be taking a quiz, what should we be thinking about when we're doing a quiz, what are some mistakes that we can avoid making, when thinking of a quiz. So let's dive in, just to like, who should be, is there anyone who shouldn't be offering a quiz? Let's phrase it that way.
Well, I always say that you should have a validated offer, but then when I talk about my own story, I'm like, well, shoot, I didn't even have a validated offer. I think when I look back at that, it's ideal if you have a validated offer because then you can set up something on automation that's going to work on your behalf. I have a client that we set up a quiz and within, 30 days, within a month, she was making 20 grand because it was a validated offer. And this course she was offering was only $297. So you don't have to you could have a mini course, you could have a big course. I mean, I've had friends of mine that I helped with quizzes as well, who's hired me, who's had almost $100,000 launches. It just depends what your goals are. And if it's validated, you can really go after your ideal client because you know exactly who needs to take that quiz. And that's really helpful information. But in my case, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just did it. And it's almost like the, start before you're ready approach, right? And you'll learn. And so what happened was, in my case, I just did it and then it revealed what was working and what wasn't working. And just, full disclosure, I have gone back to my quiz and I've tweaked it. And then I'm actually getting ready to create a very new quiz that I'm going to target to my upcoming launch of my quiz course this fall. So just because you create one, you can go back and change it, like you learn and you get more clarity and you can go from there.
Mm-hmm. So, thinking about this whole validation process. So if you're out there, a coach, you're creating, a course, a digital course, or you want to start a membership site. The reality is before you should invest all of this time and energy into creating that thing that your quiz will lead to, you want to validate it anyway. I mean, I pre-sold my Build a Blissful Business course, was just shy of a 10K launch with that. And the course wasn't even technically built yet. So that right there, pre-selling was a way for me to validate that this is what people want and people will spend money on it. So I think, to your point, 100%, we should be validating what we're creating before we actually create it. You should be doing enough market research on your ideal client to know, is someone going to invest in this membership site that I'm designing or this course that I really want to offer? Because if they're not, then you have no business even creating that sellable product, right? So if you validated it to have sales in it, then great, you're at the point, definitely let's get a quiz going. But if you're kind of in this beginning stages of creating everything in this funnel from, generating leads to then selling to your product, I think if you're getting enough validation to validate that product should be created, then would you say that you have the information to then create a quiz?
Yeah, I think to your point, validating it any way that you feel is validated is going back to market research. You want to make sure you don't just want to know, what their age is and what name you're calling them and where they're shopping at and what Netflix shows they are watching. You really want to know like what's holding them back from working with you. You want to know what they're struggling with. You want to get deep into what is going on with them because you can use that information not only for your quiz, but for your course. Mm-hmm. And you really take that voice of customer from your ideal client research. And essentially you could write your whole quiz with voice of customer. So it's really, really important to do your research. And that's the very first thing I do when I work with a client is I spend a whole week or more on research. Now that I'm getting ready to redo my quiz, I'm going to start doing research. That's the very first thing to do.
And so what are a couple tips from someone that is, ready to do this research mode? What are a couple of the tips that you give them to make sure they have good research?
Yeah. So I have an ICA document that I offer in my current quiz right now, where it's 10 questions to ask your ideal clients. And again, I'll give you three of the best questions right here. One is, what are they struggling with when it comes to your area of expertise? The second question is, what's holding them back from working with you in your area of expertise? And the third question is, how would they feel once they achieve the results? So if you're looking for me, how would you feel once you finally had a quiz created and a link ready to go? I've asked this question before, and I had someone say they would feel like popping champagne, popping the bubbly, like I'm so excited to promote it. So I took that and I used that language because you really want to future pace. You want to focus on where you're taking them, right? Not where they are, but where they want to go. So that's some of the best questions you could ask your ideal clients. And this information can go into sales pages. It can go into your quiz you're creating. It can go into your courses. I mean, it's invaluable information to use your voice of customer.
All right. So besides spending time on research, which we know that we need to do, even though it might not be very fun, what are some of the mistakes that people make with quizzes, or what we should try, that we can avoid really?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. So there's three mistakes typically. The first one is writing out quiz questions before writing the results. I always tell people to write the results first, then ask the questions so you know what result they're supposed to get, because then you can map it if you work backwards. So that's number one. Number two is to include a welcome series. So I touched on this at the beginning, but sometimes I've seen people do quizzes and then that's it. There's no information. There's nothing else. You got a quiz, you got the result, and that's it. And actually, to take it even a step further, definitely try to get their email address. I've even seen quizzes where people do an awesome quiz and they're not even asking for somebody's information. And that's the point of it. But most people know that, but I just thought I would mention that here in case someone's not aware that quizzes are definitely for growing your email list and getting somebody onto your email list. You can then sell to them, right? Because we're all business owners. But going back to that, a welcome series is so important because you really want to build your know, like, and trust factor. You want to introduce them to you, and you want them to feel validated before they get dumped into your weekly newsletter, right? Mm-hmm. So definitely have a welcome series. And then last but not least, the promotion part. Oh my gosh, so many people have a quiz and then they don't actually say anything about it. I've even had clients I've designed a quiz for, and then it's like, I don't even see them promoting it. Like, what is going on? So even though you have a quiz, you have to shout it from the rooftop. So you and I have a mutual friend as well that did a phenomenal job with her quiz. And what she did, she kept seeding it. She kept telling her audience, I've got this quiz, I've got this tool, it's going to be amazing. And so when the quiz was ready, she actually had a Facebook party where she had everybody come, she poured champagne, she showcased her quiz, took people through it on her Facebook group, and then offered whoever took her quiz and tagged her on social media, she would offer like an Instagram bio audit or something. So she gave something back. That was phenomenal. This particular business owner, she shared it in her Facebook group. She shared it on Instagram. She shared it in her email. She has a podcast. I mean, she covered all the bases and really shouted it from the rooftop. And in 7 days, she had almost 500 people take her quiz, wow, which I thought was off the charts personally.
That's great. I mean, imagine if you're starting your business without a list, right? And you need a list. And if you could grow it to 500 people, like that's really, really awesome. Quizzes also are a great place to put in your Instagram bio. If you're intentional, which we're doing, we build our businesses with intention here, guys. So what is the intention of the quiz? The quiz is to grab people who are going to purchase the product that the quiz ties to, right? So you'll want that whole funnel set up: quiz, nurture, email sequence to sales sequence to getting them to purchase. And if they do, great. Then it's on to the next thing in their journey. If they don't, great, you have another sequence to then downsell them. So it's this whole journey, right? It takes time to put together. But if your intentions are true and you've got the quiz that will lead to something you're selling in your Instagram bio, put, in your little thing, you have a little hand down, like, take the quiz. And they can take the quiz. It's a fun thing. I think more people will click on it like, oh, they've got a quiz. Like, what's this quiz about? And they click on it and it tells them what the quiz is about. And then they'll take it and it will lead them down that funnel through automation and lead to sales. So Love that. Okay, so great tip. So write the results first. Definitely include that welcome series to build know, like, and trust, because then that's going to lead to asking for the sale. They need to trust you, especially if they're just cruising around on your Instagram. See this quiz, take this quiz. They don't know you at all. And then don't forget to promote. Like anything, when you're launching something new, it's super important to shout it from the rooftops. Make sure that you're being intentional about the launch. So those are some great three tips for us. Awesome. I love this. I'm like curious a little bit about the results. So you are the personality expert. So are most of the quizzes that you do really personality focused?
I try to do them personality focused. Some entrepreneurs may not like that idea, but you can get my full benefits when I create a personality quiz. And the reason why is because, again, I'm segmenting your list based on people's personalities. So I had done a quiz for a TEDx speaking coach. And what happened was we realized she was a dominant personality and she was attracting people completely the opposite of her. So this personality, 50% of the people were getting that result in her quiz. So what we did with that information was we then realized, okay, it's a slower paced person, very nurturing, very thoughtful. And what we need to do with this person to help show up for them in a way that's going to make them comfortable is share more testimonials. Make sure that you're offering like a low risk guarantee or money back. And so we took this information and we tweaked her sales page copy, which was brilliant because that way we were speaking directly to those people who were, very heart-centered. These are the people who wanted to do a TEDx speech on changing, climate change because they wanted a better future for our children, right? So we really tailored our message to those individuals. And not every entrepreneur is going to need a personality quiz, but if you can do a personality quiz, they're the best as far as the audience loves them because it reveals information about them, and everybody loves that. And then again, it gives you insight as a business owner on their buying decisions, which is amazing. However, there was a couple quizzes that I've done based on somebody's offer that didn't really make sense. And so one particular offer, this entrepreneur actually had, based on your age, they had different offers. So we actually had to do a quiz where we sort of had to find out their age. And we focused it on, it was like a parenting thing where we were like, okay, this parent, if you're in this phase, you get this. If you're in this phase, you get this offer, right? So I had to segment it in 5 different ways. So it was based on where you're at in your parenting journey. The other quiz that I created recently, this was a coach that focuses on helping other coaches. And her audience basically was, are you a spiritual coach? Are you an aspirational coach? Are you a mindset coach? And so we divided it up based on how she offers and works with her clients. And so that is essentially, I look at your offers and then I look at what the work you're doing and see what makes sense on which way we go.
And so is it when you're doing personalities, and you mentioned before the copy that you're writing, the words that you're writing in the nurture sequence in the sales page, you want it to speak to them. So if it's a softer person, you're not so like in their face because then they're just going to be turned off. Is it so important to the fact that you even have different nurture sequences written and you take each different personality down a different tunnel to that end result? Like, is it so dramatic that you would have to have different nurture sequence or even different sales pages, or not that?
So you can definitely go down that road if you have the time and are willing to do that. I think that the future of marketing is personalized marketing. And so I don't think there's a lot of business owners that are actually taking this approach. And so if you have that information in time, essentially you could really cater it to the people who are your ideal clients. I was able to reveal that the people who are wanting done for you quizzes are that dominant personality. And so learning this information, your personality, is so essential because it goes back to even what lead magnet should you create for the people who are drawn to your business and your services. And that's why I love quizzes, because now that I know that my person is that dominant person, they don't have time for anything else. They might just want a distraction or have something fun. And that's how they get entered onto my list, right? But to your point, I have never done a welcome series yet where somebody's asked me to personalize it for each result. What I actually do is I do email one where it's very personalized, and then we take the rest of the emails, since it's going to the same offer, and use those to go to all 4 results. That's the quickest and most simplest way to do it. However, I am planning on my new quiz to have it very personalized, and I definitely want to go down that road and see how it works, almost like as my own case study on myself. So there is opportunity to do that, and I think that that's a great approach if you have the time.
Yeah, I think like generalizing things can sometimes be a problem, but again, like it takes work and effort. However, you could certainly just take, and you're probably doing this, like the basic bare bones of that nurture sequence, and then you're just modifying some of the language within. So it's not like you're having to create, 4 different sequences from scratch. They're all going to the same place, but you're just changing the language a little bit. So I suppose if you had the time and energy, but you've clearly, have people that are finding great success with that initial welcome where it's giving them the results and all of that, and then it flows them into this funnel. And then the other point that you made, that it kind of helps you discover who you're attracting, because like you mentioned, that one lady, very opposite of her. So just knowing like, oh my gosh, this product or service that I'm putting out there is attracting this kind of person. It's going to give you so much insight to your ideal client. So moving forward on all the things that you create and put out, you can change your messaging. So whether it's you change your messaging to then fit more your client, you didn't realize that's who you're attracting, or it's a 50-50. Okay, for these people, I'm definitely attracting 2 very different people. And so maybe it is a little bit more personalized.
And I hate to say it, but you can also repel people that you don't click with.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, for example, I'm a high I, and it's really hard for me to connect sometimes with that that conscientious, data-driven personality. And I know so much about personalities. I know that, not to ask them personal questions and whatever, and show up in a way that makes them feel comfortable. But those personalities, I've had a couple discovery calls where maybe it was a doctor, and they were like, can you do an assessment for me? I want to do a quiz, but it's an assessment. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm your girl because I actually think outside the box. I try to have fun with it, and I could refer you to someone else. So I've actually identified who isn't going to work well with me based on personalities, and I help them find somebody else that would be a better fit.
Yeah. Super interesting. Love it. Love it. That's the idea. We want to attract the people we want. We want to repel the people that we don't want. So we're not wasting time and energy on them. Super enlightening. Thank you, Linda, for sharing all of this information. You have a free gift for our listeners. So I think I have it here. Nail your quiz idea in 4 easy steps. So do you want to tell us why?
Yeah. And now that I bashed PDF downloads, I'm going to offer you one. Just kidding. I created this because it was the number one question I had from my audience. They wanted to know, how do I create a quiz? How do I nail my quiz idea? What theme should I do for my quiz? So it's the number one question I had. And so what I did is I reacted to it, and I created a very simple PDF download that's going to offer how to come up with your own quiz title or quiz idea in 4 easy steps. I've had people download this and crank their idea out in an afternoon, and they've even said it's better than a 4-day workshop. So I think this is the best thing to offer, because now that people have listened to this podcast, they're probably really excited and ready to dive into, well, what should their quiz idea be? Mm-hmm. So nail your quiz idea, PDF download. It's so worth it. Go check it out, and then crank it out and get your idea ready in an afternoon.
Perfect. We'll have that link for you guys in the show notes. That's on thechrissichin.com. Go to podcast, and the show notes will be there for you. And you can click on all of these things that we've chatted about. And so our listeners, where can they find you if they want to connect with you? Where are you hanging out?
You can go to my website, which is lindasidhu.com. You can find me on Instagram, Linda_Sidhu_quizzes. And I love Clubhouse. I'm at QuizBiz on Clubhouse as well.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We'll chat soon.
Thank you.
Until next time, remember, done is better than perfect, my friend, and to channel your inner badass and take imperfect action every single day.